I just went for a dog walk and I was thinking about my evening last night. I spoke at a preschool, which I often do. I think I speak at co-op preschools. I think I've spoken to all of them, at least in Victoria, over the last 30 years. And last night the subject came up of what do you do when the granddad has the kids in the car? We're talking preschoolers, ages probably 3 and 5, two kids. And the kids are really noisy and they're screaming and they're horsing around. And granddad repeatedly asks him to be quiet. And then he finally just loses the plot and yells so loud that he freaks the kids out. And so mom was saying, should I ask him to apologize? And I've gone and talked to him about it, and he thinks everything's fine and there's no need to do anything. That was a great question. Now, Granddad sounds like he's kind of from, I would say old school, but it's very much still the way people process conflict. There's a big kaboom, and then nobody talks, and then repair sounds like pass the salt. Um, and while I don't think that she's ever going to be able to get the granddad to be able to, go to the kids and ask them how they felt and explain that he was feeling frustrated, I don't think that's in his bandwidth, his vocabulary. Um, and so my suggestion was that she thought her 5-year-old was still feeling hurt by it. And so my suggestion was go to inquiry and curiosity with the 5-year-old. Just say, hey, wondering how you're feeling about what happened the other day and see if it's still inside. She has a feeling her daughter's still feeling uncomfortable with it. And just, where do you feel it in your body and were you surprised? And it's not to make excuses or anything like that, but it's to be able to just draw out what might be locked inside of her. And it's not to make anybody bad or wrong. Then the other question was, well, what about the shock of it? And my thought as we were conversing was, well, sometimes kids are shocked by a parent's anger or a grandparent's anger because everybody gets to that point where, for whatever reason, that day they've lost the plot. And what would be more concerning to me is if it wasn't a shock, if it was just part of the child's experience. And then we'd be talking about punitiveness. And that's a whole different ballgame. So, of course, punitiveness is when a parent's discipline or punishment is driven by the parent's mood. And this is where kids can become very hypervigilant. And so that's a whole different can of worms. So what do we do if we find ourselves going to that place, where you hear yourself being awful and part of your head is saying, stop talking, you're hurting him right now. And the other part is saying, yeah, but it feels so good. Repair is a really important part of being in any relationship. And so we all have those times when, whether it's our adult relationships or with our kids. And so repair is when we are regulated, we're coming from the relational part of our brain, and we're actually able to go to curiosity. And it's not sorry, but you were just making so much noise that I needed you to behave. That's not an apology. It's more like, hey, how was that for you earlier when I lost my temper and I said this to you? What was that like? How did you feel? Help me understand. Is there any more you want to tell me? That's an apology so that you really get to understand the impact that your behavior has on the 2, 4, 6, 14, 40-year-olds. And then you can say, I am so sorry that what I said to you with that tone of voice was so hurtful. Anyway, I would just thought I would share this because we have enough guilt. We're doing our best and getting together with parents of preschoolers that are just trying to eat a meal in peace and have one night where they can sleep without waking up. I think we have to give ourselves a lot of credit. Anyway, leaving this with you.